This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
How do you connect with nature? What is an environmental educator? Townbelt Kaitiaki, what is it? And can we rewild Aotearoa? Welcome to the OI podcast, the Otago Institute podcast. No mai, haere mai, and welcome to episode 118. Woo-hoo. Connecting with nature with Dr Maureen Howard. I'm Dr Barb, a quantitative ecologist with a background in modelling, climate change, biodiversity, conservation, prioritisation and SciComm, and a PhD in botany from Otako Whakaihu Waka, the University of Otago.
And kia ora, I'm Trudi, and I'm just back from 3 weeks in Japan, so I just like to travel.
And me, I'm Maureen. Kia ora. And thank you very much for having me on the episode.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the OI podcast, the podcast for discerning listeners and also ones who are forgiving in the technical glitches at the start of the show.
Well, that's what they say. You shouldn't work with children or animals, but, you know, perhaps young adults as well.
Anyway, brought to you by the Otago Institute, the Otago branch of the Royal Society for Arts and Sciences. We hope you enjoy our mix of conversations with experts from the worlds of art, sciences and mataranga Māori.
And perhaps we need to get somebody who knows how to work the boredom to give us a lesson.
Honestly, I feel like I had all of the things all done in the right
organised listeners. We knew what we were doing.
I was getting frantic signals out the door from the producer, Dommy. Anyway.
Oh, perhaps, Dommy, it's your fault. You put us wrong.
No. He's always right. That's the role
true.
of the producer.
The producer's always right.
Anyway, today's topic is connecting with nature, and we are joined in the studio by Dr Maureen Howard, who is looking absolutely aghast at the incompetence of her hosts here. Fellow podcaster, education facilitator, oh my goodness, so many things. Welcome to the studio, Dr Maureen Howard.
Kia ora, Dr Barb. Lovely to be here and to see you too, Trudy.
And as regular listeners know, I like to start a conversation by first fluffing all the buttons and then asking a bit about the guest. So, Dr Maureen Howard, Environmental Education Facilitator, with communication, and you kind of visit local champions and enthusiasts in the movement to increase biodiversity by restoring natural processes and allowing nature to lead the way. That is quite a job, hey?
Quite a mouthful. What does it mean?
It's sort of summarising, I hope, your amazing podcast, Rewilding In Action.
It is a hope, and it is very hopeful. Rewilding is very hopeful. It's about taking those degraded habitats that from an ecological perspective are degraded, such as pasture or that was once forest, and allowing it to rewild.
And of course we'll come. Oh, sorry, I was going to say. Of course we'll come back to that later in the podcast.
Okay, right. Shut up, Trudy.
But we jump forward.
So I thought. I mean, that's we will talk about that, and we will talk about your work in Townbelt Kaitiaki, and of course your podcast and other work that you've done through it. But I thought just to start off where you started life, because you started not as an educator and neither really in environmental sciences, but rather with a BSc honours in psychology from the University of Ulster, followed by a PhD also in psychology, but with an emphasis on animal behaviour from the University of Otago. So I guess I like to sort of see the journey that people come on and how they come to be where they are. And, psychology...
It is a bit of a journey because really I've always felt very connected to nature, even as a little a girl. And I did want to be like Jane Goodall.
A fantastic hero for many out there, I would think. And
so I had the mind of animal behaviour in my mind, and I ended up going down the psychology department route.
Right.
Because I guess also looks at animal behaviour. Yeah. So even in my undergraduate degree, so for example, when other students were writing about social behaviour of humans, I was writing about it in terms of chimpanzees. Yeah. And I did my honours on female sexual rejection responses in Drosophila melanogaster.
Wow.
So I did take animal
So not quite
options.
chimpanzees then.
That was... Well, I was jumping from chimpanzees to the fruit fly, as one does.
Well, it's very common in all sorts of sciences to use the fruit fly for its sins as the model species for everything.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried, given that Maureen and I worked for a similar organisation in the past, that, animal behaviour and psychology might be very useful when you work for the Parliamentary Service, but I'm not sure how much it was applied. But she might have applied it on me for all I know.
I used to joke about that.
I didn't realise you worked for Parliamentary Services.
I did. After my PhD, I had a few different things. I was a pet psychologist for 5 years.
Wow! I'd love to have you do a therapy session with my puppies.
Actually, when I tend not to mention that because people generally start asking me about behaviour problems, and
it's more about the owners, isn't it? It's all about the owners.
See, Trudi
Well,
knows.
it's funny, isn't it? Because animal behaviour is really just psychology applied to animals. But you could also say that psychology is just animal behaviour applied to people.
I do see myself as an animal. I do see the human species as that we are animals. And that is part of my connection to nature.
Yeah, I can very much see that because living with two dogs, they very much have their own personalities. They're very sentient beings. They decide what they want. They have different likes between. I mean, mother and daughter, but they are chalk and cheese. They really have completely different.
Well, just having visited the snow monkeys in Japan, I took a photo of monkeys taking photos of other monkeys.
They are so clever.
Yeah, the humans taking photos of monkeys.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I thought
That's a
one of them
bad
had
joke if
stolen
I
a
have to
camera.
explain it. No.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go back to you were working out from animal behaviour to parliamentary work.
Services, and then what came after that? Then I got a role as a sustainable living facilitator, and I thought, wow, this is a really wonderful thing. I'm naturally a frugal person. I've always been trying to tread lightly just in my own life, and so that felt like a good fit. And I've really loved teaching. I discovered that when I was working with the Otago Polytechnic, so I really enjoyed doing that, and I did that for 9 years. Then I went travelling.
We should ask you about your trip. Talking of treading lightly, we should ask you about your trip that I believe had a cargo ship.
3 cargo ships, one from Auckland over to Panama.
So what was the end goal of that trip?
The end goal, I wanted to go back to Northern Ireland, and it's not that I have flown since, of course. It takes a long time to go on by freighter. But I wanted to see if it could be done because there was a person in my class and she had travelled over to the US on a freighter ship.
Right.
And I thought that sounded really cool.
I think
And
up
so I
until
did that.
COVID, it was quite common. I'm not sure now. Yeah.
They did, yes, they
Yeah.
shut it down from New Zealand, but they're slowly starting it up again now
right.
across the Atlantic.
So when you do
Right.
that, do you have to work on board as well, or is it just
No.
you're just a passenger on a freight ship?
Yep.
You are a passenger and you pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But presumably not the same as what you'd pay if you went on a cruise ship.
It's about half the price, I think, of a cruise ship.
Right.
You do get your own room. You have
Right.
a cabin. You usually eat with the captain or the first mate or the third mate.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Just
so-
like in the old days with like Darwin and the the Beagle and
In the
stuff.
old days, I thought you were going to go on about the Love Boat, but no.
So it's interesting, and you do need to enjoy your own company because
Yeah.
you are on your own a lot.
Yeah, and of
But
course you don't have the
freedom of
entertainment. You don't have the entertainment that cruise ships have on board.
No, so try to bring some entertainment. I was learning Spanish at the time, so
Right.
I had that slotted in. Meal times become very important, so food.
Yeah. Did you dress for the meals like they did, on the sort of...
Titanic now. Which ship we go for?
I did put clothes on, yes. No, I didn't particularly dress up. I was travelling, so I had, a very small
Bag.
a bag, yes, just
Right.
with my backpack, really.
Yeah, because of course you didn't have lots of luggage, so you didn't have those fancy luggage. Because people used to routinely when the first Europeans came to New Zealand, they would routinely pack a lot of fabric and either do hand sewing or those very small Singer sewing machines that kind of pack away so that they could be making clothes not people, the woman obviously, so that they could be making clothes on the way over on the ship, which is, just from a fashion point of view, it's quite interesting.
That is really cool.
They would pack what they had decided they would need for their new life in New Zealand, but then also take just bolts of fabric so that they could be making things on the way there. Obviously those who could afford it. But
and I did meet one woman. She'd been travelling by freighter for 8 months.
Wow.
And so I think maybe you get a lower rate if you've been doing it a long time. And so she,
just popped around.
As the container ship stops, it'll stop at each of the ports. You can get off, or not. It is expensive, but it works out. Probably it was around $200 a day. So
right.
So I actually travelled right up to Auckland and got it there. I could have got on at Port Chalmers.
Oh right.
And then got off at the other end, which was the next stop, which was the Panama Canal. The ship went up the Panama Canal, and I got off on.
Was it exciting going through the Panama Canal?
It was wonderful because I am a landlubber. I do love the terrestrial ecosystems in the forest, and to go up the Panama Canal with the forest on each side.
That's crazy,
and just to be able to smell things again, because when you're at sea, you don't smell nature, and to be able to
that's a good point. Yeah.
So
that's quite interesting.
It was so exciting.
And then did you go all of the way to Northern Ireland?
Yes, I did manage to get to Northern Ireland. So I travelled up to Canada to see my sister,
right,
and then came back down to Philadelphia and took another freighter over to Europe, and then more boats and things over to Ireland.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Cool. And how did you come to be here from Ireland? How did you come to be in little old Dunedin?
On an aeroplane.
No. See, she's taking me literally.
What brought you here?
Well, I was finishing my PhD, but it was more for the economic prospects of my then husband.
I was going to say, was it love?
Yes.
Was it lust or money?
And we do things for family reasons. So
yes.
It was for that, but also
we've benefited
New
from
Zealand
it.
did sound like an amazing place to come to. And I was actually really interested in MMP. I thought this was fantastic.
Right.
And it was one of the things that I felt excited about, that you could have proportional representation.
Yeah. It was really my first foray into politics was the whole debate about MMP, and it's the last time that my family ever listened to me about anything to do with politics. I put that out there. But so I was obviously at high school, and just this whole excitement about MMP, and because originally we had votes of what type of proportional voting system we would have, and then there was a runoff vote between that and the status quo, which at the time was first past the post. So there was a sort of 3 different types of proportional voting, and MMP won that. And then,
and I guess with the first past the post.
Oh, it's an absolutely
ridiculous
ridiculous
nice and
system.
clear, but however, you often end up voting for the party that's the least, that you regard as the least bad.
Yes.
So
the thing I always say about first past the post is that it's an easy system to count the votes, but it's actually quite a tricky system to get to vote so that you're voting in a way that you get what you want as a person voting. So the simpler part is the part where they're counting the votes, but we have computers that can do that very easily now. So what we should always be doing in a voting system is making it very simple for the result to reflect the actual wishes and preferences of the voting public, and that's what STV does very, very well. So that's whereas with first past the post, you end up with a minority government almost all the time. Which means that you have the government is generally one that has a minority vote for them. So you end up with governments with sort of 30% of people actually wanting them as the government, but you get a very easy split vote. Sorry for delving straight into politics there.
We're connecting with nature.
We're connecting. And, of course, it's a proper point to just bring up, because it's on our minds, because, of course, the by-election is coming up in Dunedin here. So we have, of course, one seat that is now free, which will be contested. I think at the moment, we're halfway through the nomination period. So nominations close on the 2nd of March. Voting is on the 12th of May is election day, but the votes, obviously, it's a postal vote, so they'll come out before then. And the main thing is to make sure that everybody is registered, enrolled and registered to vote, because it closes sooner. So that's www.vote.nz. As always, register now. If you register now, you'll already be enrolled for the general election later in the year. So that's really good. We've got 9 candidates from this morning when I last looked at it that have been nominated. And the all but one were original candidates for the elections back in October. Thanks, Trudi. October. And, of course, the OI podcast election special, those podcasts are still up there and available. The other...
Very good.
Yes.
I really enjoyed them.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Did you listen to them? Oh,
yes.
Excellent. Good. It's good to hear some feedback on that. Yeah. We tried to just get all of the candidates. We invited everyone. Of course, not everyone came. We had 4 candidates who didn't come. Benedict Ong, Brent Wetherall, Leanne McFarlane and Pam Taylor. So, of course, Pam Taylor's standing again. She won't have an interview there. But all other, there was 52 of the 56.
That was a big job
candidates.
For you.
It was quite a huge job, just organising all of it behind. So the one candidate who's a new candidate into the race is not a new candidate to local body politics in Dunedin, is Aaron Hawkins, of course, ex-Mayor Aaron. And we have done an interview with him back in, I think, 2023,
it was.
maybe. Some time ago now. So as with the election ones, they're 5 months out of date now, and Aaron's will be more. But yeah, they're all still available there. I'll put short links up. So
cool.
People were asking about them on Facebook and social media and stuff the other day. But yeah, it's good to have some feedback that people actually listened to.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I shared it, and I remember someone thanking me.
Oh, good.
For that, it was very useful.
Yeah, we tried to ask very unbiased questions, and we asked all the candidates the same questions and gave them time limits, so they all had the same amount of time to answer them. So anyway, back to nature.
Let's get to nature.
Yes. Townbelt Kaitiaki.
Yes.
What is it?
Oh, what is it? It's a student-led environmental education program. It's based in Dunedin. It's around the Dunedin Townbelt. And it's for basically those schools and early childhood centres that are within a kilometre or two of the Townbelt. At the moment, we've got 12 participating schools and
sort of walking distance of the Townbelt.
Exactly, walking distance. So
and I guess for listeners who aren't familiar with the Townbelt or with Dunedin itself, the Townbelt, correct me, just jump in here when I'm wrong, Townbelt was set out by the European founding fathers of Dunedin. So when they basically set out the town plan, they filled in bits and flattened other bits, and then they said this big track of bush that kind of goes halfway up the hill right the way through town, we're going to leave that.
And it was a place where you could go and contemplate. That's what it was for originally designed. And for contemplation.
It's nice, isn't
yes,
it?
It is lovely. So a peaceful place to connect with nature and I guess with whatever people see to be their God. And and originally it would have been sort of more towards the edge of the city.
Mm. Oh yeah, of course, because the city's grown.
Spread.
Yes. But it goes all the way from sort of Glen Ross area, doesn't it?
It goes all the way from the Oval right through the Botanic Gardens is part of it.
Yeah,
and all the way right up to Bracken's Lookout.
Right.
Which
is Lookout Point,
down,
is it? Bracken's Lookout.
Bracken's Lookout it's near the Northern Cemetery. It looks down towards
I'm on the wrong
Park High School. So it's that long ribbon, about 200 hectares.
And is Woodhall Gardens technically part of it?
Yes, it is. It's got its own special
bit,
but it is part, and as is the Botanic Gardens as well. So.
And I think we did, when I was in ecology, when I was an undergrad, we did practicals up in the Townbelt and sort of quadrats and stuff. And I was always, obviously I'm an ecology major, but I liked the ecology field trips and practicals. Did lots of demonstrating for them as I went up through the years. But one thing that always did disappoint me was the relatively unpristine nature, and we're talking 20-something years ago now, possibly more, and the amount of sort of unusedness of the Townbelt. So I'm really happy to have this Townbelt Kaitiaki.
And what do you mean by unused?
Yeah, what do you mean? And how did it disappoint you?
Yeah, I guess unused. There seemed a lot of rubbish there when I was there, and there was a lack of sort of understory and the richness of how a forest should be. And I think also I had the impression that there weren't people there enjoying it. It was unused in the sense of people weren't experiencing the nature that was there to be experienced. They were either going through on one of the roads that go through, so they were just basically passing through without looking at the nature. The nature was kind of just a road.
Yes.
Or it was just a place to be avoided because people saw it as being a risky area to walk in the dark or something. I don't know. But yeah, it seemed, so I guess that perception. That perception.
I think that Townbelt Kaitiaki, that is one of our goals, is certainly to improve that perception, to promote the Dunedin Townbelt for the very precious thing that it is. There's not many cities that have this ribbon of green and forest that you can literally almost for many people walk out your door and you're in forest, and so very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
And and also then the rubbish issue. That's something that we look at. We remove rubbish.
Yeah, and I just with the latest trial that's on, that the DCC's doing this trial, thinking about what would happen if we close Queen's Drive to traffic and have just as a walkway, as a
so
non-motorised, basically.
The Dunedin Townbelt Active Travel Trial. And it is quite different if you walk through it because there's some really big trees through there. And
what sort of trees are
they are exotic, but I love a tree. A tree is a tree.
A tree is a tree.
And a big magnificent tree is a big magnificent tree.
Right.
And they're just, you really get the feeling for the height and the size of them and the grandeur of them when you're walking.
Yeah. I mean, that is a totally different experience to walking along a sidewalk, to walking with cars in the same place as it is to walking along
It is, just in terms of your safety. And, I work with young people, and to have large groups of young people, it makes it quite challenging.
Small school groups of small children as well, I imagine, if you're taking schools up there. And you were saying how many schools were within 1 kilometre of it?
Well, if you count the early childhood centres and the schools, it's around about 30.
We don't work 30. Wow. That's
so
quite a lot.
Yes, it is. And so it shows what a wonderful resource as well.
Yeah.
Not only can we give to the Townbelt, but it gives to us too.
Yeah. And of course, without the noise that cars bring, obviously electric cars are quite quiet, and that also has its drawbacks. But without the noise that combustion engines bring, actually the ability to hear the insect life and the bird life is actually much bigger.
Much bigger.
Yeah.
That's right. And I must say that I haven't taken the students in any size of group, to do bird counting along the road, because there's 10 bird counts that have been put in. I don't know if you've noticed them. So what is most of them are beside the road, but they're set places. There's a QR code. You can put it in. It's a way of collecting data to do a 5-minute bird count. And
so there's just a little post there with a QR code, and you just scan it.
You scan it, and there's the app, and you can just get in and record the birds that you see and hear in a 5-minute period.
And how does that work? Because not everybody's very expert at hearing a bird and knowing what it is. So
it's the ones that you know. So that's all that it is, really.
Right. So there's just an observation error
in experience. Then,
sorry, the scientist in me is going, but what about the observation error there? Do you have to say how good you are at knowing things, or what ones you know?
I think if you feel confident that it's confidence is the important thing. So at any one time, I guess for many people, will be under-reporting,
right?
But it's not reporting things that aren't there, you know.
Well, unless people just get it mixed up.
They could. And I guess that is the safety in numbers. You know,
right.
You're not just relying on one data point, but a whole lot of data points that go to make up.
Right, because if 100
and you can
people...
always go back and do further. You can put in recordings and...
Yeah. I mean, I guess if 100 people go there and they all hear a kaka, the chances are there was a kaka there.
The chances there are, yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
I was going to say, have there been kaka in the Townbelt yet?
Not that I have seen or that I've seen recorded.
It must be a huge goal, though, eh?
We did see Titi Punani rifleman, and I saw it myself. I was very excited up at Tolcarn.
Oh, lovely.
And so you don't often get them in the Townbelt.
Wow.
Yeah. So as we have more predator control, we should see more and more birds
and, of
come
course,
in.
that's domestic cats as well there in the Townbelt. That must be...
Well...
Try and keep your cats inside. Catians. Patios.
Catios.
Patio, like, what are they called? Catios.
Yeah,
so it's like
catios.
put like a people put like a net or a fence. Trudy's giving me the shaking eye.
But it's a great idea.
It's a great idea because your cat can go outside and be in the yard, but actually not roam.
If you have handy person skills, then I reckon this is a good new career to take on, to make these catios so that our cats can go outside and enjoy nature as well. But they're still protected from the birds. The birds are protected from them.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fabulous idea because I think people underestimate how far their cats go. I'm a dog owner, but I did have cats as a kid growing up on a farm, and they go a long, long way. And they've done studies around Orokonui and Northeast Valley where they put little GPS things on them, and people, like all the owners, were absolutely astonished at the distance that their cats went. Yeah. And I thoroughly recommend. You could do it with just I imagine you could do it with an eye tag or something if you were curious yourself. Just slip it on your cat's collar, see where it goes. I don't know. Anyway, Townbelt Kaitiaki, how did that start? How long's it been there?
So it's been there since 2017, and I joined in 2022 as the education coordinator.
Right.
And so it's this role is working with the schools, and we have a student leadership team which is made up of representatives from each of the schools. So 3 to 4 students from each of the schools. From about year 6 through to year 13.
So it must be quite a large team then.
Yes.
Does
not all the schools put in. They can put in up to 3 or 4.
Right.
So they don't all.
But they don't have to.
They don't have to.
But you would really like them to
I would
have.
really like them to.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you had all 30 schools, each with 4 people.
Oh, no, well, we've got 12 participating schools.
Right. So you can you have more participating schools if there's a school that's
if there was another education coordinator, absolutely.
Oh, right. So you're at capacity now.
I do feel I am.
And where are you funded from?
Yeah.
So we're a programme, and we get funding primarily from the Dunedin City Council at the moment. But we have had funding from other places.
Right.
And we do get little bits of funding from other places.
So you could get sponsorship from, I don't know, a lawyer's office or a doctor's office, anyone.
Yeah.
And what sort of, is it part of just their course that the students do? Or is it like...
So they primarily meet monthly.
Yeah.
So we have a big hui, which is actually next weekend.
Oh, exciting.
So we've got a lot of preparation to do for that. And that goes over 2 days, and then they meet monthly. So it's very student-led. So they create the agenda.
Right, so they decide what they want to do as this year for...
Yes, and they decide on what roles are to be part of Townbelt Kaitiaki, and they do their voting, they do their speeches and voting and everything. So it's
is your voting
exciting
system STV or...
it is first past the post.
Can I convince you to change to STV? Sorry, carry on.
So it is really quite a grassroots program then. They develop it all.
Yeah, and it's quite empowering for them, I think.
I was going to say, yeah.
And they love it. And so once a month we meet up. We've got a site in the Townbelt just up above Robin Hood Park, and they decide what outdoor activities they're going to do there, and then we go down to an indoor location and do planning.
Right.
So that's kind of how it works each month. But on top of that, the students are thinking about, what other things they want to do. So they have a podcast,
right,
which will hopefully be getting up and going again now that the students are back. And
that's through Otago Access Radio, is it?
Yep. So who've been fantastic with them.
Yeah.
So it's really good. So they're learning different skills.
Right.
And they could, it wasn't last year, but the year before, they had a photographic competition for all the schools of Dunedin.
Wow.
So they, they come up with different ideas, and I help facilitate that.
Yeah. Right, interesting.
But some of their ideas are very, very student driven, and I have to do very little. And other ones I do spend a lot, have a lot more input.
Yeah.
So
depending on which way they go and how ambitious they are, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and I guess their motivation and how much they want to do it. So.
And was Townbelt Kaitiaki, were they part of that big group that took an immense amount of rubbish out of the Townbelt just a few weeks away?
Just recently. That wasn't us because
schools
we're
were
just getting started. Yeah. We are just getting started.
Because of course you've got that year thing, haven't you?
Yeah, we do.
Students changing every year. Yeah.
But we have taken out significant amounts of rubbish. Yeah. And so as well as the student leadership team, I also work directly with the schools.
Right.
So we have some professional development sessions for the teachers, and then also each of their participating schools and the early childhood centres has a link teacher who I connect with and help bring the Townbelt into the school.
Right.
So we have different activities. So we do quite a lot of tree planting, some rubbish collection, trapping. We've got 3 senior trapping groups.
Oh, wow.
So, and one, hopefully, a new one coming on.
That's trapping for?
So, trapping primarily for possums and rats.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's really great. And these are for these older students. It's helping going further down that path towards more independence.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in a little... Oh, sorry. I was just going to put in a little... I'll let you come back. I was just going to put in a little plug for the OI here because we sponsor 2 of the Premier Awards for the Science Fair. So there's the All-Round Science Award, which is kind of best presentation, science content and Mataranga Māori all rolled into one, and that's a $300 prize. And there's also a prize for the best Mataranga Māori prize, which is the best, and you can have there's 3 different criteria for that. So it could be all in te reo Māori, it could be an issue that's of specific interest to Māori, which the student then makes clear why that's of specific interest to Māori, or it could be just about Mataranga Māori itself in some aspect of Mataranga Māori, or a mixture of all 3.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
so
fantastic.
Yeah, just because now's the time for them to be.
Yes.
Thinking.
And last year I did help one of the schools to do a science fair project, and it was on grass length and invertebrates.
Yeah.
And the results of that were, even though there was only about 8 centimetres difference in the 2 different, we had 2 plots of grass.
Yeah.
Of different heights, and there was about 8 centimetres of difference, and I thought, there's not going to be much to see. But the difference was huge between just the flying insects. So it just shows if you have the grass a little bit longer,
that's interesting,
you create a
isn't it?
microbiome.
Yeah.
The moisture is held in the soil, and things can survive.
And I know that the zoology, botany, and the geography department all have lots of lecturers there who have lots of environmental monitoring equipment, and they're very happy to offer advice and
yes, we've had a lot of
stuff.
support. Yes,
Yeah.
and also Townbelt Kaitiaki, we've got volunteers as well, and quite a few of them are postgrad students and stuff from botany and zoology and marine science. Surprisingly,
marine. I didn't mention marine science because obviously the Townbelt doesn't scream marine to me. Anyway, Trudi, sorry, I rudely cut you off there.
Oh, I was just interested in the gender composition of the older students. Is there a balance?
It's never come to my mind, so I think it's around half and half.
Oh, cool.
I get a really good balance, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Have a check and get back to us on that.
I will.
Yeah,
when I think about it, I'm
the
thinking
schools where they are,
that there's a good, pretty good balance.
Yeah.
maybe slightly more females, but it's
But
honestly,
it's nothing
not
that
really
screams
like
out.
so.
Yeah.
And, we have usually there's co-chair system,
Right.
but we've had time. A few years ago we had two males who were the co-chairs, and this year we've got 2 females. But
Right.
after the elections, who knows?
Who knows?
Yes,
That's true.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
Yeah, it's always
thinking
interesting
about the schools that are along the Townbelt. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yes, because we've got Otago Boys, Otago Girls, St Hilda's.
just Columba.
We've got.
Generation.
We don't have Columba at the moment. We've got John McGlashan, and we've got Logan Park High School.
What about Kaikoura College?
They're a little bit far
Far
away.
away. They're just on the other side of the hill. Yeah.
And then in the primaries, we've got George Street Normal, and
Arthur Street, I would hope.
yes, Arthur Street and St Joseph's,
Oh yes.
and Opaho.
We've had a couple of winners from George Street Normal in previous years of our
Balmacewen, DNI. So yeah, we've got a good
yeah.
mix of schools.
It's exciting. Now, I wanted to talk just about your podcasting there, because Rewilding in Action is a fabulous podcast. Unless you've got more questions about the Kaitiaki.
We'll just move on, listeners. We'll just move on.
Just abrupt change of conversation there. I just wanted to talk about Rewilding in Action, because, of course, that's your flagship podcast.
I was about to say my passion project.
So you have a slightly different format to what we have here on our podcast. We're obviously live, so we just say stuff and sometimes things go wrong, whereas yours is a much more polished podcast. You have bird noises and setting the scene, and it's very nicely edited, so it cuts out a little bit of the fluff, shall we say.
Yeah.
Gets to the point. And you've been to lots of places.
Yes, so that's been a fun part of it.
It's not just based in Dunedin, which is really interesting.
So can we just talk about what you mean by rewilding?
Yes.
For those who haven't listened to the podcast.
That's true, because I did say right at the start, can we rewild Aotearoa?
And wilding trees don't always have such a positive
Yes, so-
connotation.
And I would
so I'm
differentiate
interested.
between wilding and rewilding,
Wilding,
because
yeah.
rewilding is a kind of ecological restoration.
Right.
It's not the kind where you're looking so much to the past, although you look to the past to see what species might have been there, but it's a little bit more open-ended. You're often working on very much more degraded land than, let's say a traditional ecological restoration site might be about just getting rid of some weeds or to restore it, or doing some enriching planting to kind of restore it to what it was perhaps in the 1840s when people came.
Or some arbitrary time period.
Some arbitrary time period.
Yeah.
Whereas rewilding is a bit more open-minded, or open-ended, I should say, in that it's about giving nature more agency in the direction in which the ecosystem goes. And it's recognizing that ecosystems are dynamic. They're not static. It's not that we're trying to create a forest or a climax forest, because all of those successional processes along the way are just as valid. And so rewilding is taking that. It's sort of undoing perhaps some of the damage that we have done, and then letting nature take the lead. So
it could go in any direction then, nature.
It could do, but you are monitoring all the time. So you do have a goal of not wanting to end up with perhaps a 100% exotic ecosystem.
Yeah.
But it is also recognizing that perhaps there may be some exotic species in there.
That might help the restoration of the
and that are
others.
functioning, that are part of the functioning ecosystem.
So you're sort of treating some of the introduced species as kind of functional equivalents of species that may have gone extinct, for instance, or locally extinct. Is that the logic there?
That's possible.
Or, I guess for my kind of, which may be more of a mainstream brain, I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, for me, conservation seems quite a lot, particularly in New Zealand. In the New Zealand circumstance, it seems to be quite a lot of getting rid of the damage that we as humans have done, and a lot of that damage has been done through the species that we've introduced, the introduced weed plants, and the introduced mammals and carnivores and predators and even some of the introduced prey species like rabbits and hares. And
rewilding would also take that approach. If those are preventing a nice biodiverse ecosystem.
Right.
So a lot of it is I've got quite a few episodes on pest control, but you'd be really looking for that elimination rather than a constant management.
Yes.
In a way, I really admire Hugh Wilson's perspective.
Me too. He's like a hero of mine.
Yes, and so his focus is minimum interference management, and that probably is a better way to think about it, as opposed to, rewilding, which people have a lot of different ideas about, but however, it's not quite as catchy as rewilding. So,
well, I mean, I guess there's lots of concepts that are kind of interacting there and overlapping, isn't there? And it really is context dependent, because it depends a lot on the site and where you are and what that site needs, because what you need to do, or what you would want to do as a goal or even as a starting point in the UK, for instance, is completely different to what you might want to do in Yellowstone Park in America, or what you want to do in Banks Peninsula or even in Dunedin. So there's kind of differences that are very
but
contextual.
The principles are the same. So you may be trying to remove a human influence that has been preventing natural ecological restoration. So or you may be introducing. So there's two types of rewilding. There's passive and active.
Right.
So this active rewilding, where we're reintroducing a species that has been lost, that was a keystone species.
So that would be like the Yellowstone Park example, where you're bringing in wolves and then they're having flow-on effects and how they interact with other predators and prey species, and then how that interacts with the vegetation and then the flow of rivers and all sorts of things.
Yes.
So Yellowstone, it's quite a large area. So what kind of areas do you work on? Are they all sorts of sizes, or like restoring the local pond to sheep stations, or?
Yes, I would say that, because rewilding has recently got a definition.
Oh, has it? Go for the definition there.
Well, I haven't got it written down. But however, it's got five guidelines really that guide it, and one of them is that large scale planning. So even if you don't have all of that land, at least you're planning for it,
right?
And so, but even Hugh Wilson, he has been planning for, to have the forest connected to the sea,
right?
And so, but it's having that, that larger ecosystem, I guess, catchment kind of level.
Yeah. So you could look at a large area, think of a corridor, and then just action pieces of it.
I think so personally. Some people do believe that rewilding has to happen at scale, but I think that's a little bit exclusionary, and I think that you can do it at a smaller scale as long as you've got the bigger picture in mind.
Yeah, I think
it's like a roadmap.
You have to start somewhere, though, as well.
You do have to start somewhere.
And, if you start somewhere small and get some positive momentum, then you can show this is what works in this space. This works here, because you're not going to. It's unlikely, shall we say, it's unlikely that you hit on the exact, absolute right thing to do right every time all the way through.
No, and that you have all of those landowners involved.
And you have all those ducks in a row right at the start.
People who different, to kind of manage. So,
and I feel like you could be really in danger of just having such a big problem, such a big challenge, that it's difficult to ever get started. It's just go straight into a too hard basket. Yeah. Whereas if you sort of think, okay, this area, we can do this here, and then we've got the plan, we've got the vision for 1,000 years, this will all be amazing. But at the moment we're doing this bit, and then we've got the plan for how we move.
Yeah, and it also shows, provides an example, for people to inspire people. And that was one of the main purposes of doing this podcast, was I wanted to give people examples that would inspire them and so that they could realise that actually it is possible. We don't have to intervene as much as we're intervening. We can allow nature to do a lot of this, and it does
so
work.
When my husband's grumping at me because the garden's looking messy, I'm just going, I'm rewilding. Yeah. Just let it be.
I recommend that you can put up a little sign, really, or you can mow around the edge. So it in a way it needs to look intentional because otherwise people do just accuse it of wilding.
Right.
So it is intentional, but like it's a 10-year plan, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to happen overnight. Yeah.
But I mean, it raises the question: is this something that people could think about doing in a sort of in a neighbourhood idea? Like, if you're out on the peninsula and you've got several neighbours who think, maybe I've heard this podcast is rewilding. There's all of the pest-free work that's going on the peninsula as a background to it. But there's other aspects of rewilding, particularly in the vegetation, insect, bird life. Is that something that you could sort of kick off with, you and three neighbours?
I think that you could.
How would you go about that?
My very first episode, they have been doing that. Peter Cook
and
Anna, they have very good connections with their neighbours. And so I think their transition from paddock to Kanaka to native forest. Obviously, Kanaka is a native forest, but
sort of a
more successional processes inspired other people that, actually this can happen, and it can happen within a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, like you can get some get towards tree growth within a lifetime.
Yes, and also and I think also we forget what's along the way is also valuable. So the Titipunami riflemen, they love the Kanaka forest. Lots of very insect rich, so it's all valuable, every aspect. And I think the human mindset is quite goal oriented. We need to enjoy the whole process. Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. And we should have called this episode "Enjoy the Journey." Enjoy the journey. It's still time to change. Yeah.
So it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that depends if you're flying first class or economy.
Yeah, but if you're going by freighter ship, then it's definitely the journey.
Yeah. No. So I guess if there was a group somewhere, how would they get started? What are the resources?
Is there a process?
Is there a process? Is there kind of somewhere where they can go to say, okay,
what do we need to do first?
Where can they get? Yeah.
Kind of
I mean, we've just been getting a couple of sycamores that were there on our property long before we got there, and it's incredibly expensive. They're big, they're multi-stemmed, they're trying to fall onto the neighbours. They're beyond
nail copper.
They're well beyond my chainsawing. I mean, it's great firewood. But they're beyond my chainsawing abilities. And I think questions like that, like how do you start?
And how do you make that decision? Is it better to cut them down or to leave them? A big tree also has other functions.
Yeah.
It can be a habitat for the kaka coming back to the city.
Yeah.
If we cut down all our exotic trees, we'll not have anywhere for kaka to nest.
Yes.
So we also need to think of, ideally at the end, we're ending up with a rich, biodiverse native ecosystem. Although sycamore are usually worth getting rid of because even one tree can produce so many seeds that are spread widely that you can end up with a forest that is dominated by sycamore.
So where do people get guidance?
Sycamores are good. Where do they get guidance? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, listen to the podcast.
Yes, you can listen to the podcast. I'm on a journey with this podcast, and part of it is, that learning as I go along from different people.
Right.
And the last episode, which was episode 31 at Knepp Estate, I really wanted to go there. That's in England, in Sussex, because I was going back for family reasons. So I went over to see them. And because I know that they're so steeped in the rewilding method. I don't know if you know much about Knepp Estate.
Just what I heard at the start of your podcast. But
right. Okay.
Tell us all about it.
So in Britain, as you know, to do rewilding, it's often about reintroducing some of those trophic, the
big things, basically,
that kind of shape the environment.
Bears and wolves.
They did do that, and they've ended up with an ecosystem that is, and of course then it was stopping just all the sheep grazing and stuff like that. But they ended up with a very biodiverse ecosystem.
Yeah.
And And then all of these birds have come back. They're one of the major places in the UK for nightingale populations now, and turtle doves. And now they have storks. But they reintroduced them. They did, choose to reintroduce them. But they're quite amazing. Yeah. But then you see all these raptors as well flying overhead. I saw 6 raptors flying above me.
Unbelievable.
These kites. So it is exciting to be there, and it's exciting that it happened in a very short period of time.
But it's quite a big estate, isn't it, to start with?
Yes.
In the scale
it's probably about equivalent to Hinawai Reserve.
Right.
Yeah. So they regard it as moderately small, I guess, but it certainly
it all depends on your perspective, doesn't it?
It does, but it's big enough that animals are able to move around, I guess, and so you're able to get areas can go fallow a little bit for a while, and they had some recovery.
Presumably enough money to put into it in the start.
They did. Well, see, actually, there you were asking me initially, where do you start? And I would advise people, if you possibly can, to get support to get your land put into a covenant if you can.
Right, because a QE2 covenant.
Yeah, or at least at some point have that goal to have some kind of protection so that it,
Because I guess that protects it beyond your lifespan.
Yes, so that's what you want to protect it if you've gone to this effort. And that will, and then it's also meaning that you could even do something in your 50s or 60s where it is definitely going to be going on beyond your lifetime.
Right. So we're not too old. You're saying
we're not too old. We're not too old. I had 2 interviews with Bob and Carol from On Banks Peninsula, and they were in their early 60s when they started.
Right, yeah.
And it's wonderful there too. Yeah.
So this is an international movement.
It is an international movement. That's it. Yeah. So I'm really keen to get Aotearoa, that to be recognised as one of the tools. It's not the only tool. Obviously, if you're trying to save kiwi or something, then
it's
you have
a different approach.
It's a species conservation approach. So, but it's a tool that I think is particularly well suited for degraded land, for land where there's nothing really rare on it.
Right.
But the really interesting thing about NEP, there was nothing really rare on NEP in England.
Right.
But now there is. But now there is.
Okay.
And I had to ask that question, are you tempted now to change your approach to a more traditional conservation approach? And they said, well, no, because it's important to let nature take its course.
Interesting. Yeah. And is it, because it's kind of focused on that large scale, so is it something that is cheaper because you're giving agency to nature and you're trying to minimise the amount of human input? So maybe there's a massive thing that you have to do at the start to remove some massive destruction type event, whatever it was, but then it becomes kind of cheaper in the long run.
I think so. And generally not planting, so which is a very costly thing to do, labour intensive and costly. So you're allowing those species to come in themselves.
So predator eradication, for instance, would be a thing that you might want to do at the start. Is that how I'm reading it there? With the idea of elimination rather than constantly managing it.
If we can. It's very difficult. Obviously with possums we can reasonably take them out. But other species, our rats, our mustelids, the cats, the feral cats, we have to, which ones do you take first? It really does need a multi-species approach, and it is quite well. I feel that the progress is happening. It is improving the technology, so it will happen. But I guess that's the longer term.
That's the longer term. And on that note, we have 1 minute left. What have we not asked you?
Are you asking me that
I'm
question?
asking you that question.
Something you would like to talk about that we haven't covered.
Oh, that I have. Oh, right. Okay. Well, I could recommend a few good books for people if they want.
Yes, that's an excellent idea.
Books.
Yes, yeah.
So the NEP estate, it is famous, and it's made famous by the book Rewilding by Isabella Tree, and it's a lovely book.
So it's that NEP.
KNEPP.
Okay.
KNEPP. Go for those silent letters.
KNEPP, that's right. And it's called Rewilding by Isabella Tree. And another book that I really enjoyed was Wild Souls by Emma Maris. the premise of hers, she won the Rachel Carson Environment Award for that book.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought she takes a really different approach and seeing ourselves as very much as part of nature. So,
fantastic. Thank you very much, Maureen, and thank you so much for coming along to the OI podcast. You've been listening to the OI podcast with Dr Barb and Trudi in conversation with Dr Maureen Howard from Rewilding In Action. This is Connecting with Nature. You've been listening to the OI podcast, the shout out for the arts, sciences and mataranga Māori.
You can support this podcast by becoming a member of the OI. Check out the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences on Facebook or our website.
If you'd like to listen again to this episode or others from the series, look for the OI podcast on OAR FM's website, oar.org.nz.
Brought to you by the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, the Otago branch of the Royal Society of New Zealand.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.